My name is Lori Gagan, and I'm joined this late afternoon with my three amazing co-hosts, Kathleen Halal, Jessica Endicott, and Patty Reese. And we are quite excited to have you all with us today. But before we get started, I just wanted to read you a couple short little paragraphs from our mission. The Wellness Crusaders mission is to educate and empower you and to make you able to have informed choices for your health, the health of your children, and our communities and our earth. We are committed to fostering a world where the balance between human health and the environmental stewardship is respected and nurtured. We hope you will join us on the holistic and transformative journey as we work together to create a healthier, more harmonious world for all.
Mm.
And so we will go ahead and get started. Before we do, again, I'm just going to read a few disclaimers that the listeners understand that the role of the health coach is not to prescribe or assess micro or macronutrient levels, to provide health care, medical, or nutrition therapy services, or to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease, condition, or other physical or mental ailments of the body. Rather, the coach is a mentor and a guide who has been trained and certified in holistic health coaching, as well as the soil and its health. We are not acting in the capacity of a doctor, a licensed dietitian, a nutritionist, a physiologist, or any other licensed or registered professional, and that any advice given by the coach is not meant to take the place of the advice of these professionals. If the listener is under the care of a healthcare professional or currently using prescription medications, the client should always discuss any dietary changes or potential dietary supplement use with his or her doctor, and they should never discontinue any prescription medications without first consulting his or her doctor. The listener also understands that the information, if I could speak, that would be great. The information mentioned in our talks should not be seen as medical or nursing advice. And it is not meant to take the place of seeing licensed health professionals. So I guess Kathleen Halal, you're up, and I'm so looking forward to what you have to say today. So welcome.
Thanks, Lori. Nice to see all of you today. I've been working hard doing a lot of research on the regenerative movement and what's going on, and I'm focusing, at least initially, to have my interviews on Utah-based issues. And so I wanted to talk about my guests that I'm going to have next time. They're actually a father and daughter pair from Nephi, Utah, and their names are Blaine and C. Eileen Malquist, and they've been battling their local county and city jurisdictions to stop spraying toxic pesticides around their community. They get terribly sick. They have a sensitivity to pesticides. See, Eileen is wheelchair bound already, and she goes into the hospital when they spray Roundup in front of her house. It's really not a joke. And they've been battling lately to try and get the county and their city to treat for mosquitoes using more natural processes. And the officials are uninterested in those options. So we're going to have them on. We're going to talk with them. We're going to have medical professionals, and we're also going to talk about different individuals around Utah and resources where they can go to get help to stop these incidents from occurring. Utah is a very unique kind of place in that the counties, I understand, pass out Roundup and 2,4-D for free to residents so that they will treat their invasive weeds. And I've also heard that sometimes airplanes just decide to fly over and spray. So we're going to discuss those issues, and we're going to see if it's not possible to find some better solutions that work for the counties and work for the city officials to control the weeds, but that also protect residents a little bit better rather than reaching for the first chemical. I also have a client I worked with outside of Park City last summer who was very happy to purchase a product that I was representing, Contact Organics. She said that she was forced by the county to use a backpack and spray Roundup, and it got all over herself and her face. And I think this was a couple seasons, and she was really discouraged. So I kind of want to help people in Utah and see if there's not a solution that can be used, a better solution or better methods that might better protect residents. So
I'm certainly looking forward to that interview. I know I've been chatting with them just on the health of the daughter. It's kind of sad where they are. And Jessica just mentioned that she's got some relatives also that live in Nephi. So, you know, you just kind of have to wonder if they even know what's being sprayed.
I think awareness is the first step, and then also trying to work with the counties and to get them to listen. You know, I was with you, Lori, when we went to the county office for Charleston, and we saw them spraying in the big truck in front of your house. And, you know, there was another neighbor who was concerned who came out and was looking, and it's kind of like the citizens don't have a voice. These big trucks go by and the guy sticks his head out the window and sprays with the wand and just dumps all that Roundup. And I just wonder if there aren't better solutions that can be figured out so that residents aren't exposed to these toxic pesticides. Everyone is so casual about them, and I think that we need to spread awareness that we need to find better solutions.
And, you know, the problem is too, is a lot of the herbicides and pesticides that, you know, they get in these counties, a lot of them are cheap or free. So when you're trying to, you know, talk with them, there's always an interest. But then the question is, how are they going to be able to afford it? And that's really where, you know, the battle comes in, because we know they have hidden funds. But the battle is hard because now you have the people in the community that have to really go up against the town to say, well, let's find the money. You found some money to buy these hidden, you know, herbicides and pesticides. There's got to be something to get a little, you know, something that's a little better. As far as for the sprayers, you know, maybe they have to invest a little bit of money in the sprayers. But if they were more concerned on the health of the people who lived in the communities, then the communities and the children would be much healthier.
No question.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I understand the county's need to control the invasive weeds. Like, there are two sides to this issue. But do we have to use the most toxic products for Utah residents is the question. How can we come to the table? How can we get maybe budgets for safer products? I don't know.
It's spreading the word on really what we're doing. And I know that we had one of our listeners that said that Wasatch County, which is the county that I currently live in, it gives out the backpack sprayers with Roundup to the residents.
I didn't even know this. This is new to me. This is shocking.
That's what happened to my client in Summit County. In fact, they told her she had to. They gave her like an economical rate to rent the backpack, and then they gave her the Roundup for free, and they said, you must do this by X date. You must spray your whole property. So she did, and it got all over her. And, you know, if you follow the Roundup lawsuits at Lee Johnson, that's exactly what happened to him. Twice his body was sprayed, and, you know, now he's having cancer. So it's a dangerous thing, and I just would like to see a safer solution met. But the first thing is awareness, of course, of the rest.
So, Kathleen, just because we probably have some new listeners, why don't you just give us a few minutes and tell us about how toxic Roundup is? And it's going to follow with 2,4-D and atrazine and glufosinate and Liberty and all the others. But give our listeners some information and some words of wisdom and education.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to know where to start with Roundup. There's so much published science now on not only the dangers of the product, but also the corruption around the filing for the approvals with the EPA of this product. The science and the scientists that Monsanto put forward to gain approval, both at the federal level and the state level, was very sketchy. In a lot of instances, Monsanto just wrote the reports and scientists were paid to agree to just put their names on it. And people that worked at the EPA also knew that this was all kind of flaky and they just wanted to force it through. And then in the meanwhile, all this science has come out. I can't even tell you the list of ways that Roundup hurts you in tiny parts, like molecular parts per trillion. I mean, like 1 drop in 3 Olympic swimming pools. Like, we're talking tiny amounts of exposure to cells. You know, breast cancer, different cancers start to grow. It hurts your kidney, causes diabetes, causes leaky gut. It harms digestive, issues and your process of processing your food. And
It's a toxic overload.
It affects fertility in a negative way. It affects so many things. It, causes Parkinson's. It's linked to Parkinson's, neurological disorders. And this is in tiny amounts. And what happens is you might be exposed in a tiny amount once, and that might not be such a big deal. But when it's a tiny amount every day over years, this is the issue. This is the issue, and this is what's never been tested really in the long-term exposure. But a lot of the independent scientific reports, I mean, I stopped collecting them. I must have come across, 1,000 studies that show different harms, fetal development, birth deformations in animals that are fed glyphosate-laced food. There's so much, and it's everywhere. Roundup is everywhere. Glyphosate's everywhere. It's in our rainwater, it's in the air, it's in our environment, it's in our food. It's really hard to escape. And I think that we need to start spreading awareness that, hey, this pesticide, this herbicide that we've been using more than any other herbicide in the history of mankind, needs to be, in my opinion, it needs to be taken off the market. Absolutely.
So that's a solution. I think let's talk about the solutions.
Yeah, now it's a big battle.
Scared. Everybody's scared, right? Which is not that you're trying to do that, Kathleen, at all.
No.
I think it's awareness because, I don't know what you know on that level. I'm a nutrition food coach, so I come from a different place. But with all the environmental stuff, this has been going on for so long, right? So I think it's important. Yes, we need to get involved, and the backpack thing. I'm sorry, ladies and listeners, I had no idea about that.
Yeah,
that is beyond okay.
Yeah, beyond evil. And Kathleen and I have a mutual friend who actually works for the law firm up in Northern California, who won so far the biggest lawsuit. It was a $2 billion guilty verdict, and they were a farming couple in Central California that had been spraying Roundup for 25 years, and both came down with a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The payout of the first guy, it was Johnson. Was his first name Ron Johnson? What was
Lee?
Lee.
Oh,
yes.
I've heard about.
He won a guilty verdict for $80 million. But the settlement is not for $80 million. It's probably a quarter of that. But I mean, if somebody offered me like, hey, I'll give you $20 million, you continue to spray these herbicides, eventually you're going to get cancer. I'm not going to tell you when. Would you do it? I mean, you could offer me $1 billion and I wouldn't trade my life for that.
Or your health.
Lee was actually the first lawsuit. Baum Hedlund is the law firm, and they won the first 3 major lawsuits against Roundup that took place in California. And if you look up the notes on that case, you can look it up online under it's called the Roundup Papers or the Monsanto Papers. I can't remember which. Maybe Roundup Papers. Anyway, it has the documentation from all the lawsuit, and you understand why the jury is awarded so much money, because they were so infuriated and so alarmed by the fact that this product is even out there, that they wanted to give huge amounts so that people would pay attention, and it worked. There were shockwaves through the industry, but it seems like people have forgotten and they still buy Roundup, and the government kind of lets it slide. But it's a problem. But Lee Johnson, for example, Lori, he was a school grounds manager. So he was maintaining school grounds around children.
Oh,
Yeah, like our
Twice
dear
he'd
friend Mike
spray.
Bronson.
Yeah,
Yes.
no.
Yeah, or yeah, Mike Bronson, who we'll probably have on, who
Yes.
takes care of the grounds of a charter school. It's a charter school, right, Lori?
Yeah, it is a charter school right
in
across
Charleston,
from
and
my house.
he said his grandkids go to school, and he said, I will not work here if you make me spray Roundup. Like, he's standing up. He's like a Utah. He's a hero. The guy's a hero. And you know what? The school looks great. It survived. He didn't even need it. And this is the thing. This is the whole thing with regenerative ag and everything. Everyone's convinced that they have to have Roundup. You don't.
right.
You don't have to have this dangerous chemical.
You know, I wanted to add to that too, Kathleen, because on a personal level, and for our listeners too, like I have a sister and brother-in-law that spray their lawn, and they've had 2 dogs who have died with different tumors, and they have grandchildren. And I'm like, so it has to come also down to our family level and our friends, and go, hey, they don't know, they don't want to harm their children. And by the way, they're highly educated people, and which I'm not saying uneducated people don't know either, but they don't know, right? And they're just thinking, well, I want my lawn to be green. I'm not supposed to have weeds, and I'm like, there's another way. And so I'm just, what I'm trying to share with all of us, of course, our listeners, is connecting with your families, start local. Is your neighbor spraying? Like my neighbor's spraying. I went over and had a little chat with her.
Good for you.
I said, hello, I'm your friendly neighbor. We're going to talk about your lawn, so, and she switched, so this is us helping our communities too, because people don't know. And when we talk about food, a lot of people don't know what they're eating also has pesticides, and, so it's part of us sharing and us helping our communities and our families and our earth.
You're
Well,
right.
the
Yeah,
thing, Patty,
absolutely.
too. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jess.
Go ahead, Jessica.
No, I was just going to say absolutely. Like we're the ones who can make the change, right? It starts with us. We're the one who makes the change, and then it can ripple out. But it has to start with us, and then our family unit, and then it can expand into our communities. We have to be the example.
Right.
That's exactly right. What I was going to say is what Patty said, like addressing the neighbor.
Yeah.
That stuff's blowing on you, by the way.
I know.
So it's affecting you, your dog, your kids. I mean, this stuff drifts. A lot of these pesticides and herbicides, farmers know they drift up to 2 miles. 2 miles, depending on weather conditions. And so it affects you. And I'm just going to throw out, since I'm about throwing out solutions for people taking care of their lawn, there's a product line called Sunday Lawn Care. Sunday Lawn Care. You could get this stuff at Target, and it's like choosing that over, say, Scott's. Just choosing a different product. It's not that you can't get the job done. It's that you can be smarter in what you buy. You could choose better.
I definitely agree. So Patty, since we're talking about the poisons in their soil and how they're making the way to the pantry, why don't you share some information with us?
Okay. Well, of course, I'm so glad we're talking about the outside, because we have to do the outside and the inside, what's going into our bodies, and then what we're walking on and laying on, which is our soil. And that's where everything is grown, right? So we want folks to, and we've talked about this before on here, really look at organic food, and there's organic food a lot of places now, which is really great. It wasn't always that available. I'm not promoting Walmart, but I know Walmart even has some organic food. And why do we want that? Because again, the pesticides, the herbicides create this toxic load, and toxic load is wearing us down. It's overburdening our organs. It's creating brain fog. A lot of people talking about brain fog. That's a toxic overload. The body's going, oh, don't know what to do with this. It's just overloaded. So the more we can start cleaning up our diet, our food, we're going to feel better. We're going to make better choices, and we're going to nourish our bodies. Plus, the organic has way more minerals too. I mean, the mineral content in organic foods is way up there. In non-organic foods, it's not. So now you're not even getting really the calcium because it's not in the soil. It's not coming in. So we need to look at that piece too. So you're getting more nutrient value in it too, which is important because we need the vitamins and minerals to feed our brain. Doesn't work unless we get them. So the brain fog, the confusion, also the immune system. I know we were going to talk about that tonight too. Our immune systems aren't up to par because we're not getting zinc, right? The zinc is in the soil, and in the vegetables and in the, organic meats and the organic grains, the pesticide-free grains. So making a choice to upgrade your food will actually save you money too. It's kind of like, well, people say it's so expensive. It really is not. Not
Patty,
if you
I
Go
wanted to
ahead.
go into
Yeah.
the people that switch to organic lose weight.
Oh,
Like,
well, thanks for bringing that one in.
my window guy, like 20 pounds. Same foods he eats. So sorry, wanted to throw that out. Because
No, I think that's great because when you're eating more of the processed foods, the body's not turning it into cells. Yeah, Lori?
I'll add to what Kathleen said. So glyphosate, which is the active ingredient, Roundup likes to settle in because it's water soluble, loves to settle in fat cells. So with what Kathleen was saying, it's because you're really removing, these poisonous chemicals from within the fat cells, which then your body, your liver, your bladder, your kidneys can then start eliminating these toxic chemicals.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's reducing that inflammation, and inflammation causes us to swell up too, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we're holding on to all those toxins. We can't detoxify. Our liver's taxed. Everything is taxed. And so as we start to eat these more healthy, nutritious, high vibrational foods, we start to lose that weight. We start to shed those toxins. We start to reduce that inflammation.
No question.
As my granddaughter likes to say it, my cells are dancing.
Aw, how sweet.
I love that. Well, really, I love that. My cells are dancing. Yes. And getting our children to eat. Well, that's a whole nother topic, but creating fun around food and creating magic around food for our kids, especially, all kids, all people. But I wanted to come back to,
Patty, can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because my daughter was on when you were talking a couple of weeks ago,
Uh-huh.
and she had a question, but I don't think her question came through. So she has a 2-year-old, and she wants to know and she was really sick when she was pregnant, but because this is what you do and this is your profession, what would the recommendation be to get a finicky 2-year-old? How would you say to a mom who may be even listening, giving some guidance of how you could change someone who is just really craving toast?
So is that what she's craving at 2?
Yeah, he likes toast. It seems like he likes carbs, toast and pasta noodles, even though I've been giving him pea pasta noodles because it at least has protein.
Well, there you go. So that's already a modification, right? So with the noodles you get, you could probably get the gluten-free noodles. I mean, the organic noodles. You just have to keep trying different things with them, So, I mean, for a 2-year-old, if he likes the toast, then make sure he's getting some almond butter on there with some hemp seeds. I mean, there's so many ways we could do a whole show about getting, some of the foods into the kids. Have her make brain balls,
He loves those.
So there you go.
Yeah,
so that's
sweetness.
starting it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The noodles and the pasta, I've watched my niece here who is just getting her master's in nutrition. And I watched the way she feeds her kids. Now, I didn't feed my kids like that because I didn't know this stuff back then. I was like, pasta, Cheerios, no wonder my son was like, all the time because I wasn't feeding his brain. But I was a mom, that was 30 years ago. I didn't know what I was feeding my child was affecting him, and he wasn't feeding his brain. So we know even for the little ones, they need to get the protein in, really, the protein and the fat. And yes, the vegetables too, but you can sneak them in, but they really need the protein and the fat, and they crave that as well too. So finding ways for her as a 2-year-old to get that in. Brain balls, does he like to eat any protein? Is he a protein eater?
Yeah, he'll eat some protein. I think
Okay.
mostly when his papa makes it. And you know what? You brought up a really interesting point. I think when we were growing up, not giving away our ages, but we're not teenagers. Food was a little bit more nutritious because they weren't spraying all of these poisons. So we didn't see a lot of the mental, emotional issues
Right.
that we're seeing now in, that whole younger generation, because there's a lot more poisons in the food.
Yep.
Right. The other thing I just want to finish up with your daughter and feeding children is what I've noticed with my niece, because I didn't do it this way. So I'm observing a mom now with these little ones. She just like lays things out. She has cucumbers and vegetables, and then she usually will give them some kind of a protein, whether it's chicken or sometimes it's, it's refried beans. She'll make a whole plate of refried beans and then put things in it. Like you can put hemp seeds in the refried beans, and they dip.
Ooh.
So they take these organic chips and they're dipping, and you can even mix rice in there or quinoa. So getting it in so that they may not know what's in there, but they're feeding their brain, and that's really what we want. We want them to enjoy food too, right? Of course. But the main thing is we want their brain to be fed so they're happy and they're sleeping good.
That's a great
And
idea.
there was a book out. Okay, I'm going to date myself because it's a while ago, but Jerry Seinfeld's wife, she came up with a book that had recipes for hiding stuff in kids' food. And I used it a lot, and it was really good. Like it really tricked them, but in a good way. It was all positive.
Of course, and that's what I'm saying.
Like, right?
I love it.
Right, but having older boys, the one thing I wish I'd done was I wish I'd got them in the kitchen more. I wish I had involved them
Me too.
in together with me, like what Jessica's talking about, what she does.
Yes.
Get the young
And
kids
that's really helpful, is to have them hands-on with the food, that it's not just this is what we're having, this is this, and then they're cooking or they're slicing if they're old enough to do that too. Getting them involved.
Having them try it as you're slicing it and then you cook it, and so they're getting all these different tastes of it too. And
then talking about what it's
and talking about what it's doing and what parts of the body
So I guess the days are gone when your parents would tell you that you're going to eat your dinner or you're not leaving the table, and then you're sleeping in a plate of food like it was when I was growing up.
Yeah, you can't leave till those peas are gone. And then I remember taking the peas off the table when my mom wasn't looking and putting it in my pocket.
Yeah, I used to just scrape the food off. I used to scrape the food off to my brother Dave. He's in the military, but he was like always like my champion. I could just scrape whatever I wanted and onto his plate, and he would always eat it. So, I mean, I hated food growing up. I loved sugar. I was a sugarholic. I liked vegetables, but I hated meat, mostly because my parents cooked it extra well. But I was a sugarholic. And even when I broke sugar over a decade ago, it took me well over like a year of thinking about it and praying about it. And even now, sometimes I'll grab some gluten-free graham cracker cookies and I'm just like, one turns into six, kind of like Jessica's story some few weeks ago. Anyway, so that's really great advice, Patty. So thank you for sharing on that. I love it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to wrap up with?
Well, when you said something about the sugar, so, we don't want to discourage sweet things because in Ayurveda and in lots of styles of eating, sweet is an important taste to have, but we don't want the processed sugar. However, we want to make sure we get the protein in first. So I know, is that like a dangling carrot? Eat your, like, kind of like our parents in a happier, more holistic way. Eat your protein and your veggies, and then you can get the sweet. But there is some of that, because if you have the sweet before you get the protein and the fat in, you're just going to want more. And especially with a child, they're not going to, you know what I mean? So coming back to your daughter, Lori, get in the protein and fat first, and a little bit of the veggie. And then, you know, they can have the crackers or, you know, something sweet afterwards, you know. And there's so many great sweet fruits. I mean, now it's winter, but there's dried fruits that are so amazing right now too, that you can have the munch on. So that's all I was going to say about the
dates.
Oh, the dates.
So good.
Yeah.
I make homemade almond milk with dates. It's so good.
Oh, I love it. And dates with goat cheese, and then you can stick hemp seeds in them, you know, and you can make little caterpillars. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can, you know, do, especially for children.
And, you know, that brings us up to something. I think that if our listeners, if they really want a good recipe for the brain balls, which are, if they've got protein, send us an email at info@thewellnesscrusaders.com, and we'll get that recipe over to you. And I promise it'll be really helpful. You could probably even sneak it into your husband or your wife's food. I mean, if they're not eating enough protein, we could always do that as well. But that's a topic for another story.
Okay.
You don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding.
Pink Floyd, thank you.
How can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat?
I wanted to show you something before we Jessica speaks a little bit. But this is actually a brain ball. So I have a little, because I'm teaching a nutrition class after this call with you all. So I have my brain balls ready so that I can teach for the next 2 hours, because I won't be able to eat till afterwards. So they really are delicious. And just one more thing. So I sent my son and his girlfriend are camping this weekend, and she goes, please send me the brain ball recipe, and we'll be happy to send you that as well too. And then she sent me a picture. She goes, I did it because I sent it late, and I thought, she's not going to get to it, because they're winter camping, and I'm like, make some brain balls, like bring them with you, because then it's just something you can eat before you ski. And then she sent me a beautiful picture. So, you know, we share photos with your kids too. My kids and I have been doing that a lot, just sharing what they make. And it's part of the connection. We're not all eating together, but we can share our food and share the, you know, the joy of cooking and the joy of eating, and I'm seeing changes in my adult children now, because they're really looking at their health. And that makes me really happy. So
that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, before we get started, hey, Dwayne, can you, before I get started, Dwayne, can you pull up that, for the people that can see this, it's definitely much better to see it in person. And again, we would be happy to send you this link. Our email is info@thewellnesscrusaders.com. You can listen in if you're in listen only mode, but we're going to go ahead and we are going to play a video. And you know what, as I always show this video in my organic workshops when I teach, this brought me back to who Kathleen is going to be interviewing next week with Blaine and his daughter. So Dwayne, we're ready.
There was once a village along a river. The people who lived here were very kind. These residents, according to parable, began notice increasing numbers of drowning people caught in the river's swift current. And so they went to work, devising ever more elaborate technologies to resuscitate them. So preoccupied were these heroic villagers with rescue and treatment that they never thought to look upstream to see who was pushing the victims in. This is a walk up that river.
Sandra Steingraber is an internationally recognized expert on the environmental links to cancer.
A cancer diagnosis is the beginning of an unplanned journey. There is a story behind each one, and this is my story. I left the lab bench for good and reinvented myself as somebody who writes about scientific evidence for the public. The disconnect between what we in the scientific community know about carcinogens and what cancer patients are told is huge.
One of the difficult things with PCBs is not just what you were exposed to yesterday, it's perhaps what you were exposed to 20 or 30 years ago.
Atrazine is the number 1 or 2 weed killer in the world, and it is the number 1 contaminant. There's almost no aquatic environment, including rainwater, that's atrazine-free.
It's not just the dose that makes the poison, and it's not just timing that makes the poison. It's who you are that makes the poison.
When you have cancer young, your ability to kind of lay a plan is taken away. There are things in this world in which you need to presume longevity. Abolitionists. These chemicals simply need to be phased out. When carcinogens are introduced into the environment, it's a sign to death. I don't have time to put a happy face on cancer. Cancer is a serial killer.
Here we have a population of beluga whale where we find cancer on a regular basis. There's no other cases like that in the world.
Darnell's going to be famous. He's the first genetic male frog that's actually completely turned into a female upon exposure to atrazine.
So you look at these animals and they actually also share the same environment we live in. You have to ask yourself, well, could that also happen to us?
A few weeks ago, the phone rang while I was trying to meet a writing deadline. It was the nurse in my urologist's office. She was calling to say the pathologist had found in the urine collected from my last cystoscopic checkup abnormal clusters. What am I trying to say here? Are you fine or not, Sandra? What's the end of the story? Well, I don't know.
Thank you,
I
Dwayne,
believe
for playing
our
that for
grandchildren will
us.
look back on us now and marvel that our economy was once dependent on chemical killing the planet and killing ourselves, and they will think of
So that movie is what inspires me every single day to do what I do. And that's really getting the word about the poisons in the pantry, the toxins in the soil. And I believe in my heart of hearts that it starts in the soil. And if we don't speak up, then we're not doing our families or our communities any justice. So this is what I fight for. But I'm going to recap. Last week, I actually did an interview with Dr. Richard Fleming on the immune system. And so I kind of wanted just to recap that for, the listeners who weren't able to listen in. And I'll go through this quickly, but I mean, we're in this world we're living right now where RSV is everywhere and it's wicked and people are getting sick for longer periods. The cold virus, the flu virus, the norovirus, and even COVID. So I think it's important for our listeners to know that our bodies have 2 separate immune systems. We have the innate immune system, which is what we were born with, and it keeps learning as we keep aging. And if you think of the innate immune system, let's just say you get a cut in your finger, and then what happens is your innate immune system, your white blood cells, they send the soldiers there because they're trying to fix it, repair it, and heal it. Then we also have the acquired or the adaptive immune system. And the adaptive immune system is what we acquire throughout our lifetime. So we get hit with the flu virus and our adaptive immune system remembers that. It creates these antibodies, these soldiers, and it continues throughout our lifetime. And viruses are very smart. They may not have a brain, but they know how to replicate. So when they're replicating, let's just say that somebody gets the flu virus and someone decides that, you know what, maybe I should take a flu shot, not knowing really what's in the flu shots. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. But basically what happens is any type of a vaccine that is being made is kind of like yesterday's news. You know why? Because we don't know what tomorrow's virus is going to bring us, because it's going to replicate and it's going to be smarter tomorrow than it was today. So I'm going to talk about adjuvants a little bit on the vaccines, and I'm not trying to scare people about vaccines. My goal is to educate that there are toxins and in the vaccines as well that most people are not aware of. They're not giving informed consent. But it is important right now, since all of the viruses are so wicked right now, and all these kids are getting sick and they're lasting for longer periods of time, that it's important to keep your immune system strong and healthy. And for those of you that do not know this, maybe your doctor never gave you this information and informed you, but 80% of your immune system is in your gut. That's why the health of the soil, because it's growing the plants and the foods that we're eating, and it goes to the foods in the pantry. If our immune system is not strong, those poisons are like sandpaper on the gut wall. And once that gut wall breaks open, I believe Kathleen mentioned the word leaky gut, what happens are those toxins, those poisons are leaking in and out of your bloodstream. And if your body is strong, your immune system is strong, because yes, maybe you're a young kid, maybe your body has a better chance of fighting off those foreign invaders. But as we start aging, and if we're not paying attention to the foods that we're consuming, or the products that we're putting on our body, or even the toothpaste that we're using to brush our teeth with, it is compromising and breaking down our immune system. Right. And so the main white blood cell of our immune system, they're called macrophages. And the macrophages are designed in our body by God. I mean, I'm a believer. I'm not going to say that I'm not, but I am. So I always go back to, listen, it's my God-given body. But the macrophages are the foreign invaders, and those are what go out and they engulf the poison, these bacteria that have entered your body, starting off in the soil, because the farmers are spraying these chemical poisons, either knowingly or not knowingly. They're spraying them. And then what happens is that food makes its way to the grocery store, and it makes its way back to the poisons in the pantry. So I want to play one more quick video, and then I'll just give a couple of tips on vitamin C and vitamin D. So Dwayne, if you could just play the short little video, we don't have to play it all through, but it's how our macrophages in our body they go and they engulf the bacteria. So Dwayne, if you want to just play that. And again, for anyone who wants these two videos plus the brain ball recipe, you can email us at info@thewellnesscrusaders.com. But here we go. So it's basically just showing how our immune system is fighting for us inside our own bodies, even though we can't see it. Engulfing the chemical poisons. It's now showing how they release a protein that can alert our immune system to start engulfing. Thank you, Dwayne. Thanks, Dwayne. And so basically, the stronger our immune system is, the better we're going to be able to combat all of these poisons and the toxins. But I have to tell you that if your doctor is not educating you about what we are educating you about, I highly suggest that you go into your doctor's office and ask them, like, why didn't you ever tell me about that I had two different immune systems? And you know what, honestly, if you can't get a good answer from your doctor, it's probably time to move on to another doctor who is willing to educate you, because it's not. So what do we do to strengthen our immune system? So, the reason that I love Main Street Media Utah is because we're able to tell the truth. We're able to educate our listeners on things they either A, may never have heard about before from their doctor, or B, maybe their doctor's not even relating it back to how toxic and poisonous the soil is. So that's why we are here, because we are here to bring you the education, the truth. And if any of our listeners are out there and you decide that, hey, you want to consult with Kathleen or Patty or Jessica, again, that email is info@thewellnesscrusaders.com. You can let them know what you're looking for and we'll respond within 24 hours. So vitamin C is a very powerful antioxidant, and it is a water-soluble antioxidant. So basically, you can't take too much of it, because whatever your body and your cells aren't using, you're going to urinate it out. Vitamin C cannot be made in the body. So you either A, have to get it from clean source foods, and knowing that that farmer is growing in clean source soil, or you have to supplement with it because it's strengthening your immune system. And Dr. Klenner, who was one of the founding fathers on vitamin C, prior to his death, had wrote over 27 papers on vitamin C and how it can reduce the viral load. And there are literally hundreds of peer-reviewed studies on vitamin C. Yet doctors really aren't talking about vitamin C, especially when people are in the hospital, especially when people have sepsis. So again, vitamin C cannot be made in the body. You have to get it from clean source food or by supplementing. Why isn't there a cure for the common cold? Kind of goes back to the virus, because a cold also is a virus. And for those of you who didn't know, that a cold virus, when somebody sneezes, whether they are covering their mouth or not, I mean, even if they're covering their mouth, they're not going to catch the whole thing. Did you know that a cold virus can last on a surface for up to 24 hours? Yucky. Think about how many times we go in and we open a door, not even thinking. And a lot of us now are just using our shirts, using our jackets, using paper. I go to the gas station pump and I use a paper towel. I never touch the gas station pump. But 24 hours later, that cold virus is still active. And for the children, they're going to school, they're touching things, they're always putting things in their mouth. I got a little granddaughter and she likes to suck on her fingers. She doesn't like a binky, and I keep calling. I'm like, you can't have COVID fingers, Ava. Anyway, so 24 hours is how long the cold virus lasts. And there are over 160 different types of cold viruses. And there is no way you can put all of that into one shot. Because as soon as you, bless you, I'm glad you covered your mouth, Jessica. As soon as that virus, like they come up with something, it's just going to outsmart, because viruses have been around before man has been around on the planet. So how do you catch a cold? Your three largest organs, your eyes. So people who wear glasses probably have a little bit more protection than for some of us who don't wear glasses. Our nose is one of the organs, and our skin. Our skin is the largest organ on our body. And that's how these viruses can come through and then compromise our immune system. How small is a cold virus? So if you think about the size of the side of a credit card, it's about 200 microns thin, super thin. A cold virus is 30 nanometers, which is way smaller than the size of the side of the credit card. A COVID virus is 80 to 160 nanometers. However, all of the masks, including an N95 mask, are not capable. I'm going to repeat that. The masks are not capable when someone sneezes or someone coughs. They're not going to protect the person wearing the mask from that virus coming in. Now, I like when people are sick and they do wear a mask to travel. That's the time that mask should be worn. But if you are not sick, the masks they're not going to help you. And all you're doing is rebreathing in your own carbon dioxide and your own toxins. And we are seeing it firsthand in our children, in older adults, in the medical community, where we're seeing the contact dermatitis all around the face. And I have a dear friend, a nursing friend who works in hospice, who actually has the contact dermatitis, and it comes and goes because it's a virus. So just a few things to remember. Now, the flu virus, on the other hand, a flu virus is going to last about 2 hours on a hard surface. Not that you want to get a flu virus over a cold virus, but it doesn't live as long on a hard surface. And again, there's different types of flu viruses. There's the A type, which is the most common type. There's a B type, and there's the C type. And they propagate from host to host, meaning they propagate from human to human. So when you're touching those doors, when you're touching the shopping carts, when you're touching things out in public places, keep something that is non-toxic. I personally like hypochlorous acid from the Hypochlorous Acid Company. I would be glad to share that information. That's what I use. Why? Because it is proven scientifically to kill the cold virus, the COVID virus, the flu virus. It's the only USDA organic. I can use it on my grandchildren's hands, on their mouths. Put them on the shopping carts. I use them everywhere. So we'd be glad to provide you that as well. So again, a recap. Flu virus, 2 hours. Cold virus, 24 hours. Over 160 different types of cold viruses. And real quick, I'm going to recap the flu shots. Again, remember, viruses are much smarter than the human beings. Viruses will always outsmart science. So when you think about this, and I am hopeful that your doctors are giving you informed consent, that they're talking about the adjuvants that are in these vaccines. And for those of you who do not know what an adjuvant is some type of chemical or a heavy metal. Maybe it's aluminum, maybe it's the thimerosal mercury, but they have to have something to open up the cell wall so that they can get the ingredients. Whatever's going in that shot, they need to get the ingredients into the cell. So they put these chemical adjuvants, which are harmful to the body. Aluminum loves the brain. Mercury loves the brain. We can go on how much these heavy metals damage us. But I implore you that before you consider a next flu shot, an RSV shot, a COVID shot, a COVID booster, or the hundreds of other shots that are out there and the ones that are yet to come, ask for informed consent. Get the paper, read it, ask what adjuvants that they're using. And so that was my little recap. The last point is, and I'm sorry, I think this is like really important, that the RDA established that 75 milligrams of vitamin C is okay for the majority of the people. Though that RDA goes back way into the early 1900s when the soldiers were getting scurvy. And more people are getting all these viruses, yet the RDA, that's your big government, that's FDA, that's all of the stuff that we're, all trying to work with. But 75 milligrams, I'm telling you right now, is not going to help as much as boosting up the vitamin C that you should be taking on a regular basis. So email us and we can talk to you further about that. Go ahead.
I want to say quickly,
Pretty much done.
Vitamin C, we're going to be talking a lot about the nutrition that is or isn't in food, but there's orange juice is marketed as being high in vitamin C. And so people might think that if they buy orange juice and drink a lot of oranges, they're going to be getting their vitamin C. Truth is, they're losing their permission to have that marketing on their packaging because there's no more vitamin C in oranges now. Like the level is so low that they can't claim that on their packaging anymore. Mostly what you're getting is sugar. You're getting a little vitamin C, but you're not getting what everyone thinks. So you really do have to get good supplements. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Patty, I don't know if you were going to say the same.
No. Well, I was going to say, find organic oranges instead of orange juice, because orange juice is just a shot of sugar. And eat the whole orange, even this stuff inside, leave some of that on there because that brings in a lot of vitamin C. And there's many other things, many other fruits that have vitamin C too, but we really do need to supplement, unfortunately, with vitamin C. We can't get in our foods as much.
Yeah, kiwis have a high vitamin C content.
That's right. I love kiwis.
That's good.
Yeah, and you can eat the skin on them because the skin is fiber, so you don't have to peel them. The entire fruit.
All right.
Isn't that kind of hairy, Jessica?
Like you just rub it off.
It's like the peach fuzz too. It's like, I
don't think I get the little 2-year-old little Will to eat the whole thing, but I want to wrap up in 2 sentences on vitamin D, just so that our listeners are aware. So there's two types of vitamin D. There's the inactive and there's the active. So you have to remember on whatever vitamin D that you are taking, that you have the active form, which is calcitriol. It's CALCITRIOL. And the reason that you want the active form is because if you are taking the inactive form of vitamin D, Kathleen, you're taking the right one. I'll just tell you that. If you're taking the inactive form of vitamin D, it has to be converted to the active form in the liver. But our livers are on overdrive because they are so busy getting out these chemicals that are coming from the soil, from the foods, the air we breathe. Over 85,000 toxins every single day we're bombarded with. So please go home, check your vitamin D, make sure it is the active form of vitamin D, calcitriol. And again, for those of you who want more information on all this, please feel free to email us. Go ahead, Patty, and then
Rory, quick question about the vitamin D. Does it say the active form on it on some supplements?
It does. It will say active form calcitriol. And the other thing that they want to remember is they need K2 with their vitamin D because K2 is needed to push that active form of vitamin D into the cell. And if it's not vitamin D with K2, then you need to be supplementing. It's a trace. You don't need a lot of it, but you need K2 to get the vitamin C in the cell. If not, it's not going to get into your immune system. It's not going to work the way you need it to.
Wow.
All right, Jess, you're up.
Wow. So much great information. So I'm going to try to tie this all together. So we talked about toxins in the soil and in our air. And we talked about our immune system and we talked about it in our food. And I'm going to bring in our breath because we forget that we have a natural way of dealing with we have a natural defense system already. Our bodies are so intelligent. And we have a right to have clean air too. So, I mean, how can we protect our own home? We can protect our own home with air filtration systems too, right? So we can get HEPA air filters. And there's some really good products out there that can help us with those too. The IntelliPure that is on sale right now for $199. So, I mean, that's a simple, cheap way to just protect your family, right? Just protect your little home environment. But I want to go back to what Lori was also sharing about the immune system too, with the macrophages. So I like to call those the little Pac-Man guys, the little Pac-Mans, because they go through and they eat all of the bad bacteria, all the viruses, right? And our first line of defense is our nasal passageway. We've gone so far away from breathing through our nose and become such a stressed out society that we're breathing through our mouths, we're sleeping with our mouths open, we are no longer breathing through our nose. And our nose has got its own filtration system. So it has little cilia inside of our nasal passage lining. And this stimulates nitric oxide as soon as an infection comes in. Bye, Patty. Patty has to go and teach a class.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. See you next week.
So the cilia in our hair, it stimulates nitric oxide as soon as it senses an infection. Okay, so as soon as it senses this infection, our macrophages are alerted. Our immune system is on alert to stand by and go to town and start defending. So as soon as these little hairs sense an invader, our immune system kicks into gear. Now, if we are eating, nutritious, delicious foods, if we're taking our vitamin C every day, if we're taking our vitamin D, then our immune system is ready. It's geared up, right? It's already going to attack all of these cells or all these foreign invaders. And I think it was Leor last week, Patty, that was talking about if we are taking enough vitamin C and we have enough nutrients in our body, we're not going to get sick. So we're not going to get sick from these foreign invaders, right? But when we're breathing through our nose, that filtration system is happening and we're breathing deep into our lungs. A lot of us are breathing up here. We're breathing in the top part of our lobes. We actually have 3 lobes on the right side and 2 lobes on the left side. And we have to breathe deep. When we're breathing deep, it's also stimulating our lymphatic system. So as it's stimulating our lymphatic system, which is also a part of our immune system, now it's helping to produce more immune fighting bodies, right? So taking in deep breaths, bringing that oxygen in deeply, and then we're expelling carbon dioxide. Now, a lot of the toxins that we're breathing in will just sit in our lungs. They'll sit in the deepest part of our lungs. And so taking in big, deep breaths is going to allow us to get rid of some of those toxins and those toxic overload too. So we talked about that toxic overload in the beginning, but breathing it's a tool, you guys. It's 24/7. It's available to us day and night. So it is there for us. Breathing, I just want you to get that in your head, that breathing through our nose, it is our filtration system. Mouth breathing, it creates physical changes in our body and it transforms our airways and it softens the tissue in the back of our throat that just leads to more mouth breathing. So what happens if somebody sneezes and your mouth is open? It's going directly into your mouth, getting into your throat, and your immune system hasn't been activated yet, right? But if you're breathing through your nose, somebody sneezes and it goes into your nose, your cilia is activated, your macrophages come out and they start right away. So that immune system is kicked right into gear. Yes, Kathleen?
Oh, sorry. I didn't want to be rude. It's just that a lot of doctors are saying that a really simple way, like building on what you were saying, a simple way to protect yourself is morning and night, do the saline nasal rinse to kind of like after it gets stuck in there, then just rinse it out so it can't develop into something big.
Right. And a lot of the times we're thinking too that, we've got congestion, we've got all of these things going on, but that's our immune system. That's our immune system going to town to bat for us. And so blowing our noses, hawking those logies, like getting that stuff out, that is our immune system killing these cells. So getting that out of our system is beneficial for us. Our body knows what to do to help us with these. And then we have our neutrophils. Our neutrophils are another part of our immune system. And the neutrophils will go to town to work. Lost my video. Uh-oh. Where did we lost? We lost part of us.
It's weird. There we are.
So our immune system is super intelligent. It knows what to do. And then, Lori, you were talking about the vaccines. Well, what happens when we get a vaccine? Yeah, it's supposed to activate our immune system, but it's bypassing all of these things, right? It is bypassing everything that our immune system knows how to do. So it's not geared up. Now, all of a sudden, our immune system is acting off of the sympathetic dominance, which is the fight or flight response, right? So now our immune system is doing this fight or flight. Okay, I've got to hurry and get to town. It's creating more stress within us. But if we're doing everything through our nose, we're breathing through our nose, and we're not taking these injections and bypassing our body's natural defense, then we're going to be more healthy. Our body's going to be in a more relaxed state as well. So when I had COVID, my oxygen dropped down to 72. And the partner that I was with at the time was like, Jessica, we've got to get you to the hospital. We've got to get you to the hospital, because when you don't have oxygen, what starts to happen? Memory loss, your organs start to shut down, right? It's very devastating on our bodies. So I said, no, I don't need to go to the hospital. I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I was like, watch this. And I just started doing some breath work. And within less than 2 minutes, my oxygen was at 98.
Wow.
So we need oxygen to help us on many levels, right? Oxygen for our organs, oxygen to help us with our immune system. So the solutions for boosting our immune system are not just taking the supplements, it's also breathing deep and taking these big, deep breaths that are filling all of our lungs. And I guess we have a caller, right?
Yeah, the immune system one. Bring them in, Dwayne.
This is Dale. He's got a question about the immune system. So go ahead, Dale. It's all yours.
Yes. So when someone develops cancer, it's in the first stage, the immune system starts dropping, correct?
Correct.
So what can someone do with the immune system to build their immune system when they have cancer? Does the vitamin C still work?
It does. Do you have a functional medicine doctor? And I guess the difference between like functional medicine and conventional medicine was, conventional medicine doctors, most of them don't want to talk about amino acids and antioxidants. Do you have someone who's willing to listen to you to ask the why? We would be happy to provide you some information in an email on how vitamin C can help the body, the immune system with cancer. And there's a lot of really great studies out there. We'd be happy to email to you as well.
Okay.
Do you have our email address?
No.
Okay. It's
What's that?
info@thewellnesscrusaders.com. Or yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, so I was listening to you talk about the immune system and vitamin C and all the flu stuff about there's 160 viruses. And I was just wondering, when people get cancer, how do they fight the colds off and everything? If the immune system if the white blood cells are higher than they're normally, I think the normal is 20, is that right?
It's because your white blood cells are fighting for your immune system. So it's throwing these soldiers into your immune system.
But
And
when
even
you have cancer, you have higher white blood cells as it gets higher, correct? As it gets
right, your body's fighting for itself, so it's releasing more, you know, of the soldiers in to fight for your body. But even breath work that Jessica is
all the
talking about
soldiers.
it. Yeah, that's how we look at like,
that's
yeah.
for the
But even
Pac-Mans.
yeah, even the breath work that Jessica is talking about, you know, to help the immune system as well, is really beneficial. And we'd be happy to chat with you off channel if you're interested in finding out more information. I mean, that's why we're here. We're here really to spread the truth.
Yeah, I would be.
And to give you some guidance and some, you know, some of the studies that we think that could be beneficial. And maybe Jessica can talk to you a little bit about like breathing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to note that we're not medical doctors, and so it's can't really give in-depth information when it comes to cancer.
But we could lead you in the direction.
But we can definitely
medical
talk
doctors
to you individually,
right.
on air. We can't really disclose a lot of information about that kind of stuff, but we are happy to talk to you individually about it.
Okay, so
and we could provide some studies that you could take to the doctor you're currently working with as well.
Okay.
You know what? You know what is incredible? A natural way, fasting can help with cancer cells. And in fact, they did a study with fasting before people received chemotherapy. And what it did was it allowed the chemotherapy to directly target the cancer cells. So people that fasted 24 hours before they went in and had the chemotherapy done, the chemotherapy directly targeted the cancer cells and didn't kill any of the healthy cells. So, and then also it's important too to remove the poisons from the pantry, right? We don't want to feed the cancer. So feeding cancer, sugars can feed the cancer. It's going to cause more inflammation because now your body is trying to attack all of these other invaders, right? It's trying to attack all of the toxins. But when you're eating healthy, that's going to support your body in being able to deal with the cancer. So does that help?
Okay, so how do I get this information? Yeah, how do I get the information?
So send us an email.
Email in?
Yeah, you can email us info@thewellnesscrusaders.com, or you can go to our website, thewellnesscrusaders.com.
Okay.
And Dale, it's important to know, like the stuff that Kathleen Halal is talking about, the poisons start in the soil. So it's really important to make sure that the foods you are eating are organic. Not that organic foods are 100% safe, because there's really nothing 100% safe anymore. But organic is better than conventional. And when you email us, we could send you the list for the Dirty Dozen. And the Dirty Dozen are the 12 most toxic foods that you should always eat organic from. There's also a Clean 15. So, you know, if it's something you can't afford on a Dirty Dozen, then you can look on the other list, which is called the Clean 15. And you can pick things from that list. But I think it's important to get this information in your hand. If you're concerned for yourself or for a loved one, we would be glad to send you some of this information on there.
Yeah, I'll just share that the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen, you can find them on the Environmental Working Group's website too. So,
or EWG.org.
EWG.org, yeah.
Got it.
We look forward to getting an email from you, Dale. And Kathleen, I know that you've got to wrap up. Could you just just say for a few minutes who you're gonna be interviewing. I think that all the listeners in all of the communities, in all of the towns, and all of the cities in Salt Lake are going to need to listen in on who Kathleen is interviewing. Because if you think that your town or your home is safe from these herbicides and these pesticides that the state of Utah is spraying, guess again, because you're wrong. So next week's episode with Kathleen is going to be very important for every single listener in the state of Utah, including the surrounding borders of the states, to listen to. But Kathleen, why don't you recap on that, please?
Yeah, I'm going to be speaking with residents of Nephi, Utah. They have been in touch with both Lori and I for, I'd say, a couple years, just trying to fight as hard as they could to get their county and their city to stop spraying pesticides around their home, because every time they do, they go to the hospital, and they just can't seem to get any help from the officials in their city. And they even tried to deal with the mosquito issue. They knew that their city was going to be buying mosquito spraying trucks and all kinds of equipment and the expensive chemicals. And we got them information on alternative means of controlling mosquitoes. And actually, in the case of mosquito control, the organic methods are more effective than the toxic chemical methods. But they couldn't get anyone to listen to them. So I'm going to have them on. We'll talk to them about their situation and their fight over the years to try and get the county and the city officials to stop spraying these toxic chemicals, and hopefully also some other residents of Utah who've also been dealing with these issues, as well as medical professionals. So we just want to spread awareness about what's going on around your home as a Utah resident, and see if we can't kind of start a movement to find some better solutions so that residents are protected. So I hope you'll join us next week.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'll be joining you. I always love to hear what you have to say. So thank you for that. Have a good evening. Enjoy your dinner.
Thank you. Bye, Jessica.
Remember, don't eat the poison.
Don't eat the poison. Bye.
So Jessica, why don't you just kind of continue then? Let me just ask you a question for our listeners. So if someone is sick, has some type of an autoimmune, or somebody's anxious, or somebody is, and I don't like the word anxiety. I mean, I do a lot of Dr. Amen brain coaching. I never use the word anxiety, depression. I feel it's a label that conventional doctors like to give people. So I always like to say, hey, anxious thoughts and sad thoughts. I mean, I have anxious thoughts when I'm getting ready to go, snow skiing with my husband, because I hate heights. I have a fear of heights, but I know what to do. I know the amino acids. But if somebody is sick, how would you recommend them to do a little bit of meditation or mindful breath work?
Yeah, you think about, if you've ever heard of Joe Dispenza, right? Joe Dispenza has an incredible story, and he uses meditation. He used meditation to heal his body. So he was in a serious injury that left him paralyzed, and they wanted to fuse his entire spine. And he laid in his bed just imagining that his body was healing. So we can use meditation and breath. When you're meditating anyway, you're focusing on your breath. Like, that's one of the biggest things about meditation, is you're focusing on your breath. And as you're taking in those deep breaths, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system. So we know that when we're not in our...
Hey, Jess, can you tell us what the parasympathetic nervous system is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have the parasympathetic, the sympathetic, and the automatic nervous system. So our sympathetic nervous system is our fight and flight. So when we are faced with a trauma, a danger, something that causes us to, either fight, flight, or freeze, then that is activated. So when that's activated, our pupils dilate, our airway constricts, and the blood stops rushing to different places in our body, because our body's preparing to get out of that situation. And a lot of us are residing in the sympathetic state because that we're go, 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 go. We're not taking time to rest and relax. Right? We're dealt with so many stressors all the time now. And the parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest. So when we're in the rest and digest, the parasympathetic system, our body, our heart rate is less, it's decreased, we're breathing more deeply, our digestive system is working, we're able to make rational decisions, we are able to think more logically. Well, hopefully we're thinking more logically and we're not taking offense to things. And when we're in the parasympathetic state, our body can now heal because we're not living in that state of fight or flight. And it allows our immune system to have the oxygen, to have the blood flow, to have what it needs to be able to support it. We're also not anxious. So this puts us in the place where we're less anxious. And so using our breath, going back to what you asked in the beginning, getting that stale air out from the sickness is going to be so important for our lungs, right? Because it's very easy for things to settle into our lungs and then to become toxic or turn into pneumonia, turn into deeper respiratory issues, which when you think about COVID, what was happening, right? We had the masks on our face. We're not taking those deep breaths. We're breathing in the carbon dioxide that we just exhaled. So now that's putting us more into that stressed out state, more in the sympathetic state, the sympathetic state. So now we're more in the fight or flight. So that's going to cause anxiety too, right? And so going back to that, the first thing I would do if somebody were to come to me and they were saying that they were sick is I would have them meditate. I would just have them sit and focus on their breath. Just taking a big inhale all the way down into the abdomen and then exhaling and pulling their belly button to the spine. Okay. And because this is also stimulating the immune system, it's stimulating the lymphatic system, and the lymphatic system goes through and it cleans away all the toxins in our body after the immune system has cleaned it up, and it carries it out, right?
What's a quick 1 minute like meditation for someone who doesn't have a lot of time, but they know they need to do it? What would be one place of guidance you could give them what to do? Something easy that they could do sitting in their car, sitting in their bed, sitting in a hospital bed, sitting at a dinner table, for all that,
Yeah. The easiest, simplest one is to just come into awareness of your breath. Take a big inhale through the nose and say, I am breathing in, and exhale through the nose and say, I am breathing out. And that's going to be the easiest, quickest one.
That's a pretty easy one. Do you have, let me ask you another question. For listeners who are parents and their 2-year-old is throwing a tantrum, what would you recommend to the mom or to the dad on what to do to calm a 2-year-old as far as for meditation? Because obviously, they're not going to be able to think breathing in and breathing out. What advice would you like to give on that?
Oh, there's so many cute little things that you can do with kids. So you can do the candle breath.
I love that one.
And so the candle breath is they're imagining that all their little fingers are candles and they're blowing them out, right?
I taught my little granddaughter that. I saw yours. I love that one. I think it's so awesome and clever for parents. And it does. I mean, it tends to like settle them down. Yeah. What about for an elderly person, maybe in a nursing home, who may be a little anxious because they're not getting enough visitors? I mean, what would you recommend on something like that?
There is a beautiful one that I used to do with my mom, and we've talked about this one before on one of our episodes, but it was the Satanama one, because what it's doing is it's stimulating it's not just stimulating the voice, but it's also where you're putting your tongue in your mouth as you're chanting it. It's stimulating the brain, different points in the brain. And then you're also using your fingers too. So it's a very powerful one for them. And my mom loved it so much, and she had Alzheimer's. So I use this with her. But you say sa ta nama, sa ta nama. And you just keep doing that, and you do it for 11 minutes.
Oh, I love that one too. Do you think that elementary schools should be teaching medication as a requirement for all these kids who seem to run around a little bit anxious nowadays, probably stimulating from too many electronics or too much TV time or iPad time?
I do. I absolutely do. There's a beautiful, like, you can start them young though. You can teach them how to breathe from such a young age, right? If you're holding a baby and your baby is crying and screaming, you can say, breathe with me, breathe with me. That natural response of breathing is so powerful for shifting anybody's mood and also stimulating the immune system too, right? So I do believe that they should be teaching it at schools. It's there. It's just it's a tool that's available 24/7. And what a greater tool to be able to teach them how to manage their emotions at such a young age with the power of their breath.
Yeah, that's really good information, and I hope that, if there's single parents or even married couples out there that are experiencing some issues, with their little ones, that really consider, some of the meditation. And if you would like more information on this, you can send us an email at info@thewellnesscrusaders.com. So, Jessica, what would you like to leave our listeners with this evening?
Well, I think that leaving them with the knowledge that they have the power. They have the power to create changes and to take their health into their hands. That they are not their diagnosis, right? That there are answers, there are solutions. And that even though, like, some of the information that we're presenting seems overbearing and scary, there's also really good solutions that we all have, right? We as a group have, and to reach out to us.
Right.
That they're not alone in this journey. Right? They're not alone.
That is a perfect wrap, my dear friend. So thank you very much for sharing those helpful tips. For all our listeners, a real powerhouse team next week, and it's a fellow citizen of yours in Utah. And you're not going to want to miss the interview because it's happening in your town. You just may not be aware of it. So thank you. Good night for now. Thanks, Dwayne. We really appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a beautiful, blessed evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.